And I'm happy to introduce you Mr. Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, and Mr. Vitaly Mutko, the chairman of local organizing committee and deputy prime of Russian government. Дамы и господа, мы рады приветствовать вас в Государственном Кремлевском дворце. Большой день, большое событие, большая жеребьевка. Совсем скоро стартует чемпионат мира в России. Сегодня мы...
This big event, and very soon we will launch the World Cup 2018. We will see who will play whom in the evening. And well, I would like to introduce Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president and chairman of the local organization committee of the Russian Federation, and Vice Premier Vitaly Mutko. I believe that it would be right if we start with the hosts. Mr. Mutko, I have a question. Well, we are on the finishing line now, and this has been a great effort. We are in the very heart of this country, Russia, and well, we have a great view from the Kremlin Palace, and although it's snowing, it's very beautiful. Don't you think that it's a symbolic event that we will hold the World Cup in 2018 and that it starts here? What are your expectations? Good afternoon, dear colleagues, and I would like to welcome all of you here in Moscow on the eve of this historic event which will happen tonight. I'm talking about the final draw. We will see which team will be playing in which group. This will be very important for Russia, and I believe that the coaches will have a lot of food for thought. We will start forecasting, we as fans, and I believe that this is a very important football event, and we have been expecting this event. This is a very emotional thing in the preparation phase for the World Cup 2018. It was not by chance that we opted for this place, for the Kremlin Palace, and we have been very responsible while preparing for the World Cup and for this draw. This is the historic center of Russia. This is the very heart of Russia. I can even put it this way. This is not far away. This is in the Kremlin, actually. And, well, we have all the sacred places of Russia located here, and we are ready to work with our teams, with our fans, with our guests, with the teams. We are ready to provide everything, the best atmosphere, hospitality, services, infrastructure, and, well, I believe that hospitality is the most important thing, and we Russians are well known for this. So, welcome in Russia once again. I would like to assure you that we will do everything to organize this World Cup at the highest level. We are working together with FIFA. We have been cooperating with FIFA in the past several years. We have been preparing ourselves for the World Cup of 2018, and I have no doubt that we will capitalize our efforts by showing the best quality level at the World Cup. We will see the new stars, we will see the stars in our stadium, and welcome to Russia.
Question for you, please. Today is a big day for Russia, today is a big day for world football, and of course today is a big day for FIFA. But is it possible to say that you will watch the ceremony of the draw, not just like a FIFA president, but like a big football fan as well?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody, and also from my side, of course, a warm welcome here for this press event, and of course for the draw. Yes, I will watch the draw as a football fan, but also as FIFA president. It is a very emotional moment for me, because I assist at the World Cup draw for the first time as FIFA president. On the other side, as everyone knows as well, I'm a big football fan. And as some of you might know, I am also a draw expert. So I know, for example, that there are more than 200 countries who are watching this event live. It is really the kickoff to the World Cup as of today, or even as of a couple of days ago. Everyone is starting to speak about the World Cup, who will play whom, what will be the opening match, where will the big teams play, who will be the surprise teams. And this discussion will guide us from now until the summer of next year. Then personally as well, yes, I was conducting draws in the past, quite a few of them. Actually, my first draw that I conducted was exactly 10 years ago, when I did the draw for the final tournament of the Euro at that time in Switzerland and Austria. And since then, I made many of these draws. This time, I don't conduct the draw, so I'm sad about that, but I will watch very, very carefully Gary Lineker and everyone on stage there to be able to criticize them after the draw, as they were criticizing me when I was conducting draws. So I'm looking very, very much forward to this event. It is fantastic. It is great to be here, to be here in this historic place in the Kremlin, and to kick off this World Cup really in the best possible way.
So that's a really special thing for you, really special event for you. Виталий Леонидович, вопрос к вам. Традиционно мы спрашиваем о степени готовности.
Mr. Mutko, this is a traditional question to you. We are asking organizers about the level of preparedness, about the official infrastructure, how how you are prepared. Is it 100% or not? Well, in the beginning, I have already said that Russia has been taking this very responsibly. The preparation for the World Cup, and at the highest government political level, there has always been support for this project, if I can say so, and millions of people in this country have been participating in the work related to the World Cup, municipalities, organizations, agencies, ministries, and so on. So we have taken upon ourselves guarantees to prepare for the World Cup of 2018, and I believe that the president of FIFA will tell you the same thing. Well, first of all, we decided after we won the World Cup, after we won the right to hold the World Cup, we introduced legislation to protect marketing rights, to provide for the security in this country. Customs procedures were amended, border procedures, and so on. So in this sense, I would say that this legislation made it easier for us to work, and then in preparation for the World Cup 2018, we introduced 600 different events into our special program for the preparation for the World Cup. Well, we're talking about security, communications, and whatnot. This program that I am referring to is almost over, is almost completed, and we see that the World Cup preparation has made it possible to boost the development of different regions. I believe that we will inherit a lot. We have built 12 new stadiums, 5 have been commissioned, and they hosted the Confed Cup. Luzhniki hosted a game with the Argentina team, and so on. So out of the 7 remaining stadiums, 6 will be commissioned very soon, and the one in Samara will be commissioned before the 1st of April next year. But that's not it. We will hold 2 to 3 test games, and on the 14th of May, FIFA will get all these stadiums from us. Well, these are high-tech stadiums. We have a very good infrastructure. This is large, reliable infrastructure. I'm very optimistic because I'm very sure that this will give us a boost to develop our regions. We will have about 100 camp bases. Well, these are small stadiums for 500 fans, and well, we will have 3 in each of the 11 towns, and well, 32 teams will be the teams that well, we will be drawing today. And well, yesterday we held a team seminar for the teams on behalf of FIFA, and we have well, decided that all the teams very soon will decide which camp bases they will be using. We are working with every team, and I can assure you that every team will be comfortable. They will feel at home, I promise. They will feel the way they feel when they train at home, and all teams will have the same conditions. Well, talking about the infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, we have done a lot, and we have reconstructed 13 airports in many of the cities of Russia. We have in Moscow several new airports, in Rostov-on-the-Don. We are commissioning a new airport as of the 7th of December, less than a week from now, and well, it will have all airplane types that are imaginable. We have equipped these airports. We have improved the medical and healthcare systems. Well, 13 new hospitals were built. Emergency services were revamped, and I believe that this will be something that we will inherit in every city. But apart from that, we have taken additional decisions to provide additional services to our teams that will be coming here. They will be provided with security services, logistical services, and this will be done at the highest level. If you were watching the Confederation Cup, you may judge what the level of services was. I believe that this was the highest level. Talking about fans, well, they can come here if they have a fan ID without a visa, which is very good. And, well, they will come to this country free of charge without paying for the visa, and these same fan ID holders will be able to go from one town to another. Well, during the draw ceremony, we will tell you more about this too, and well, people will go freely from one city to another, within cities, especially from an airport to the center of a city. Well, people will go by shuttle buses. So we have been doing everything to provide the most of comfort for our guests. There will be fan zones, there will be a cultural program, there will be special tours, city tours for people who will be coming to our city. So we are absolutely ready to hold the World Cup, but at the last phase we have to intensify whatever is left over, and well, what we have been planning we will have completed. We will complete on time. I wanted to thank the President, Mr. Infantino. Well, we are one team that is preparing for the World Cup.
Every World Cup edition is a bit special. What do you think will make the Russian edition really special?
Russia will make it special. Our ambition is, of course, to organize the best World Cup ever. And from what I've seen so far, I'm convinced that Russia 2018 will be the best World Cup ever. Football is magic. Football is passion. Football can change many things and has the power, I think, to make people feel differently about situations, about people, about country. And from what I've seen here in Russia, and we've been listening to Mr. Mutko in terms of the preparation, the technicalities, I mean, everything is ready. And what is not yet ready will be ready very, very soon. The commitment that I've seen here in Russia from all the levels, from the government, from President Putin, to the LOC, to the Russian Football Federation, the volunteers, to everyone who is involved in the organization is really absolutely unique. I don't say this because I'm here. I've been involved in the organization of many events in the last years, and the commitment I can see here is extraordinary. Everyone that will come to Russia will actually discover, I'm sure, a a welcoming country, a warm country, a country that wants to celebrate football, and that wants to celebrate football with the whole world. What is done for the fans, besides the infrastructure, besides the stadiums, the airports, the transportation, which is and are, of course, state-of-the-art. Luzhniki is incredible. It has a special pathos that you will see when you go inside that stadium. But generally, what is done for the fans, I think, is really extraordinary and also quite unique in the history of organization of big sporting events. In terms of the fan ID, which gives entrance to the country without visa, in terms of transportation between host city, free transportation, this will allow everyone to come to Russia, to travel around, to discover not only their team and the matches they play, but to discover a country. And I think we all look forward to that, and we all need that as well in these times, to be able to look forward to the World Cup, which is not just the biggest sporting event in the world, but it's just the biggest social event. It's just the biggest event that happens in the world. Next year, from the 14th of June to the 15th of July, the eyes of the world will be focused on Russia. We will welcome here in Russia certainly more than 1 million or 1.5 million of fans from all over the world. They are all welcomed, and they should all come to discover a great country. And I'm sure that the legacy that will be left here, not only on the football side, but also for society in general in the world, will be immense. And this is not thanks to any one of us, it's thanks to football and thanks to the work that is put in this organization by everyone.
Thank you very much. So we're going to your question. But before asking, please introduce yourself and your media. Дамы и господа, мы переходим к вопросам, к вашим вопросам.
We're going to your questions. Please tell us your name and your organization.
Oleg Koshlev, агентство TASS.
Oleg Koshlev from TASS. A question for Mr. Infantino, please. Good afternoon. Now, the FIFA has admitted that the FIFA rating at the moment is a system, one that is not quite objective, especially if you look at the host country here of the Football World Cup. Now, there was a working group of FIFA that was dealing with the rating issues. Are there any results of that working group? How will the rating in the future be calculated, and how will that have an impact on the position of Russia in that rating?
Well, the ranking will certainly not be changed before the World Cup. We are working on that, on how the future ranking could look like, what kind of parameters have to be taken into account. It is, of course, a complex undertaking, because you compare countries from different continents which often don't even play with each other except in the World Cup or sometimes in friendly matches. So there are certain situations which make it more complicated to have a world ranking as compared to a continental ranking, where you can take into account only the official matches of one continent, because they play, of course, regularly in the qualification phases and in final tournaments with each other. There are some issues we are looking at on the weighting of friendly matches, for example, on the weighting between confederations, but it's very much work in progress, and what the ranking of Russia will be when the revision of the ranking is done, they will depend on the results of the World Cup, I think, mainly as well, because there we have a good starting point from 1 to 32 at least. We know who will be ranked where, and then all the others, they come after, and they will try to improve.
Thank you very much. Our German colleagues, please.
Arno Richter, Deutsche Presseagentur. A question to Mr. Infantino and one to Mr. Mutko. On Tuesday, the IOC will decide whether to ban Russian athletes from the Winter Olympics 2018. What impact will this verdict have on the World Cup? And can Mr. Mutko stay in his job if the Russian athletes will be banned? And question to Mr. Mutko, what are your personal feelings about the situation that you have this verdict on Tuesday, and do you have any plans what to do if Russian athletes will be banned?
Well, far as I'm concerned, and as far as FIFA is concerned, the answer is simple. It's no. It will have no impact. I don't see why. We are speaking here about football, about the World Cup, not about the Olympic Games, and that's what this is all about. When it comes more generally about this discussion, as you asked as well, I can simply repeat, what I was already saying in the past. I certainly don't participate, and FIFA doesn't participate in any speculations about any situation. FIFA, in FIFA's tournaments, as well as UEFA, by the way, in UEFA's tournaments, be it national team or clubs, is testing all the players, is testing all the players out of competition, is testing the players inside the competitions, and so far, all the tests that we have conducted, be it in the World Cup in 2014, be it in the Confederations Cup, at the Euro last year, in the club competitions, all the tests have been negative. And these tests are not carried out in Russia, they are carried out outside of Russia, and they are carried out by non-Russians. And obviously, as it was the case in the past, and it will be the case in the future as well, if it turns out that anyone has committed an anti-doping rule violation or has taken some doping, then there will be sanctions. That's how we handled it always, and that's how we will handle it as well in the future. But from a football point of view, we are very relaxed and at the same time, of course, very committed to make sure that our rules are respected by everyone.
Mr. Mutko, anything you want to share with us on that relevant question? Well, this is not the first project that I'm organizing in the Russian Federation. We had the Olympic Games, we had the Universiade, we had the track and field athletics world championships as well. And we're in a similar situation like that now. I don't remember one single tournament in the context of which problems wouldn't crop up, problems like that. We're always doing things wrong, people say, some people say. And before Sochi, we've been told that there are huge problems, and I'm not going to, not going to advertise them again, but people have said that you are not ready for the Sochi Olympic Games. And then with the first athletes in the Olympic Games, they've been talking about the truth of the matter or the facts, as nothing was actually violated. And the same story here. We have a huge project that is now being prepared in this country. And at the same time, people talk about doping at all times. We see other questions that are now on the agenda. Allegedly, the fans are not behaving properly, and sometimes people say you have to inject people, or you have to make people shots against infectious diseases, because there's in some parts of the country there's any types of pest that people are possibly being infected with. Let me say once again and for all, we are an open country. All nationalities, all religions, all different attitudes in our countries are being respected. We have always provided those guarantees, in fact, and I can only reassure you once again, any of our cities that today is open to welcome you. You can feel quietly and comfortably spending your time there. Now, as far as your question is concerned in terms of the doping issue, I'm not going to give you a lengthy answer here at this point, and I have to apologize in front of the president here of FIFA and in front of all the journalists that we're always trying to get, people are trying to get us sidetracked from the preparations. But, by the way, you are not representing the press services of the IOC, although we know that the New York Times seem to be playing that role. So they seem to interpret a decision of an organization that hasn't come up with a statement yet. Maybe you know what the decision will be next week, because you're referring to the IOC. We don't know what IOC is going to say. We hope that common sense will prevail. There's a charter, IOC charter. We believe that the presumption of innocence is a principle that has not been validated by anybody. We assume that any athlete, if he has done any wrongdoing, should be punished for that. But this collective punishment that seemed to be in fashion those days Because look at the Paralympic Committee of our country that has been banned. The entire Paralympic Committee has been banned in the last 2 years because there have been individual cases, and no one knows, and no one tells us what to do with it. The water directors and others are always saying, you know, the ball's now in our court. We are preparing a number of reports, of course, and people are blaming us of state sponsorship of doping. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to talk about this now. I don't say what Russia is going to say. The IOC is a public organization. The IOC cannot dictate a country what personnel decisions to take. It's the International Olympic Organization, mind you, and they cannot say here who's going to be in what position in a given member state. I said before that we're open countries. I've been to the IOC, and I'm telling in front of all of the journalistic community here, and also to you, to your media, I'm happy to go to any court, to any disciplinary committee, anyone. And I'll be happy to talk about there has never been and will never be any state programs related to doping in this country. We do not need that. And there are facts, simple, plain facts out there. And what are these facts? Well, since 2009, we have opened our country. Any doping officer can take samples of any of our athletes in this country. There's no manipulations that are possible. And this ongoing speculation on this topic, obviously, is tantamount on allegations that are just made by individual statements of people. Now, if you want to really get to the heart of it all, well, let's openly display all the facts. We're happy to do that. We are open and transparent, and we are working with everyone bona fide, but also listen to what we are saying. We are playing by the rules. In the last 2 years, there have been numerous cases of doping. Remember, there was a Norwegian newspaper article on doping cases in the biathlon community of Norway. I can give you the names, and no one's going to look into that. Or there has been an investigative article on doping and in football and other sports in the UK. No one has created a commission on that. Or do you remember this publication about the American laboratory? No one is looking into that. So just take the statistics and look at it. Russia in 2014 has conducted 13,000 doping samples. 148 athletes have been punished in this country for violating doping rules, anti-doping rules. We had the British Doping Association checking us. They have yielded the lowest results of any violations, so there is no proof or evidential base. So all these challenges and allegations, obviously we know that they exist, no matter how much people are coming up with those allegations, they're obviously trying to discredit our country as if there were no other problems in this world. We are not the authors of a doping system. We will assume, and we do assume, that we are trying to also address this question in international sports. The president of the International Athletics Federation was also the vice president, and all the executive leadership has been arrested in Paris for nothing. Thousands of biometric passports have been hidden, and only 13 athletes of Russia have been affected. All of them have been disqualified. And why are the other ones? Now, I'm not going into the details, and I have to apologize in front of Gianni once again for getting on with this here. But what I'm saying is this. We have and have always been ready to work with everyone on a bona fide reason or basis. We have done a major amount of work, and I'm very grateful for what our colleagues have done, of course. But we need to do more. Of course, we need to change the mentality, to change the culture, etc. But cultural change, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to take effect. And everyone is saying that things are just bad in Russia, where everything else in the rest of the world is great. Let me say this once and for all again. The Olympic Games have been conducted on the highest possible level. We wanted to be open and transparent, as we will be here during the FIFA World Cup. This doping control system was not in the hands of the Russian Federation. There was IOC, the WADA. There were other organizing committee members in there. We did not involve ourselves in that at all. And on all the doping samples, it says, you know, do not open. It was not opened. And it was not open. What happened over those past 2 years? Now, all of a sudden, we are being charged of being the worst of them all. And finally, let me say this to wrap up. The not opened test tubes, well, we assume they could have been opened, but they were not opened. This is the challenge that people are making. I mean, excuse me, and a sample that has not been opened, it's just that. There's no problem in other countries, and now people are checking for scratches on the test tubes. Well, do that in the rest of the world, and you see there'll be scratches all over the place. In other words, here's my very final statement. There needs to be an established process. The Americans have a constitution that says, I think it's the Sixth Amendment, if I'm not mistaken. So, if you have any challenges, cross-examine people. If you have the proof, do it. Where's the proof? We're always blamed of violating any rules, saying that people have come up with evidence in a number of applications, people have found some new records. Well, maybe my fault is that, people have done things in front of me already, or before me already. I mean, apparently there's something that's going on at all times, and people seem to have your permanent attention then. So all I can say, once again, we have very openly and bona fide type answered all the questions. I've met a number of times with IOC commissions, and we're ready to answer all of these questions again. But any questions that FIFA will have, obviously we're happy to respond, and that we have done in the past as well. There is no manipulation of our national team in football, has never been, will never be. And obviously there are facts where people are trying to pull us into some of these allegations. They have never been proven. Well, if tomorrow there's an athlete violating any doping rules, well, they will have to be responsible for that, and they will be punished. But where is the proof? There is none there. Let me remind me again of the statistics. 100, 150 people are disqualified, have been disqualified every year when the system was running. And now we have a British association checking us, and we only have 0.7%, 11 violations of anti-doping rules. Virtually nothing. Why is that? Are they no longer interested? Well, they cannot find any of these violations. They're not working up any dividends of what they've done. And we're also paying very expensive, big money for this independent doping checks. So we'll see what decision will be taken by the IOC, also what the international federations will come up with. They have already taken decisions on the fate of individual athletes. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to defend our athletes. They are excellent people. They have a history of 20 or 10 years of performing in sports. We're not people at Sochi that were just winning a gold medal out of the blue. No, all of them, any athletes, have been working really hard for that. In 13 sports, we had 13 international foreign trainers, and I asked, Pichler in biathlon, Luders in bob and skeleton. So the French, the English, all of these coaches have worked with our national teams. How would you manipulate the team if you have international representatives there? I mean, we have 260 people in some of these teams. It's just ridiculous to come up with that. Someone who has really performed not so well is now in the driver's seat of investigations. And the same is also here. If there had been any, if there had been no state sponsoring, doping program, as you're saying, where would we have been? Two games, one loss and one draw in the football. I mean, I am just saying that there are attempts out there where we are focused, we're encountering this image that's conjured up of the evil out there that is violating all the rules. No, we are developing a transparent system of doping control, and all the requirements that are now being placed in front of us have also to be applicable to the rest of the world with a uniform standard. All of us have to be responsible if any of these violations occur, but use a one-for-all solution. There's no single anti-doping control organ that is appointed without the approval of WADA. And obviously, WADA is in a deciding role here as well. But again, the football is the best sport anyway. I think we have exhaustively covered that issue, but again, ladies and gentlemen, let us please focus on the main topic here on our agenda, which is the final draw in the preparation for the FIFA World Cup, and we're certainly happy for keeping the discussion open for other topics as well. So can we have your questions, please? Alexander Rogolev against Sports Agency. Mr. Mutko, I have a question on the legacy, and you have heard those questions about sports legacy a lot. And there's a number of cities where there are no prime or Premier League clubs like Saransk or Sochi. Will there be any additional program to finance those clubs, or maybe create new clubs to bring them into the Premier League? Is there a plan like that?
We have this program already has been implemented. We're starting to implement it at least, and in these cities they have or had some kind of football clubs. In Kaliningrad, the club is Baltica. It's one of the leaders in the local football tournaments, and well, they have a stadium for 35,000 spectators. I believe that this will be a multifunctional stadium, and well, we have taken decisions on every city, on every stadium, and apart from the construction of stadiums, we have been working together with FIFA, and FIFA experts have worked out a management system for every stadium, and we are not ready to give away all the stadiums to the local regions. We will be supporting the regions for the next 2 or 3 years, not only in terms of finance, but organizationally, well, to help them with marketing, to work out a stadium management model, and so on. So this is the work that we will be doing. This is a must, and in every city we will have, or we have already, a football academy and a professional team, a professional football club, and this is a pyramid that we will be building in every city, and then we will give this over to the cities.
From Estado de São Paulo, Brazil. Mr. Mutko, first of all, my question is, compared to 2014 in Brazil, what were the lessons you learned from Brazil not to repeat here in Russia? So if you could give 1 or 2 examples of things that happened in Brazil that somehow taught you a lesson. And to Mr. Infantino, besides the draw that will take us all the way to June, talking about it, the other big story on football around the world is, of course, the trial in New York. My question to you is, first, how do you see that process going on at the moment, and specifically on the case of Mr. Del Nero, quoted over and over and over by different witnesses of being part of the scheme. Still, his process here, not here, but at FIFA, has not been concluded. What do you have to say about Mr. Del Nero? Thank you.
Вот видите, как опасно возбуждать какие-то процессы против России.
A dangerous thing to start procedures against Russia. Then there will be a chain reaction. People will be arrested one after another all over the world, and well, nobody can find any corruptions related with the requests to hold the World Cup. But well, I'm just saying that we know that these things are happening, but while we are not actually talking about this too much, well, some things are being announced as though people know what the decision will be tomorrow or in a week. When some colleagues were being arrested, we know that, well, in Zurich at a hotel, some people from the executive council were being arrested, and there was a journalist who woke up 6 o'clock in the morning and he started taking pictures just by chance. Can you imagine that? And in Brazil, I didn't see any bad things or bad lessons. We love Brazil, and we wanted to thank Brazil for having held the previous World Cup. We have been working together. We have been interacting. We were accepted there as guests. Our colleagues would go there to see how the World Cup was organized in 2014. Our Brazilian colleagues were open. They were telling us everything that they were doing, and well, you are very jovial people, but you can cry when you lose. We saw this with our own eyes, and this is very good. We are emotional too, and well, you Brazilians were singing songs to well, support your team, and well, saying something funny about the Argentinians, and vice versa, and so on. This, I believe, was a very sincere job, and Brazil was preparing for the World Cup before 2014 to carry out a fantastic World Cup. Thank you very much. Thank you, friends.
I need to speak about corruption, I understand. Well, let me just say also, I mean, about Brazil, of course, I was not involved in the organization in Brazil. As I said, I was involved in many other organizations of big events. And the point I would like again to underline is really the welcoming of the fans, of the people, the public from all over the world here in Russia, which will be, I think, very special and very unique and very warm as well. And we should focus as well on that. I hope as well that we can really focus in the next 6 months on football, on the World Cup, which means so much to so many people, and we see it as well from those who have unfortunately not qualified for the World Cup, and what impact this has, of course, in their country. So, you know, we should always remember, in whatever we do, that we are here speaking about football and about a competition that should bring and will bring and brings joy to people. Now, unfortunately, as we all know, in the past there was a bit of a special, let's say it like this, in a negative way, ecosystem when it comes to the management of certain football events. And I think it is important to make a clear line between the past and the future, or the present and the future. The past on one side and the present and the future on another side. Things like those that have happened in the past, and the trials in New York are a testimony of that, cannot happen, should not happen. We have put in place enough mechanisms at FIFA level, at least, to make sure that they don't happen. Having said that, they happened, of course, in the past, and we have to deal with the past. I said it already publicly, and I'm repeating it here. My thanks go to the American authorities, to the prosecution authorities in the US, in Switzerland, wherever in the world. They do whatever they can to help us fight corruption and bribery in football, because corruption and bribery has nothing to do with football, at least the way we see it. And when I'm in FIFA, and since I'm in FIFA, this is the case for FIFA as well. In the trials in New York, and the sad thing is that, you know, in some media articles, FIFA is always mentioned, even though the bribes happened in the vast majority of cases for rights of South Americans or American TVs and sponsorships. FIFA has been recognized by the court in the US as a victim of some individuals who, if after the process has finished, will be condemned, well, then it is just right that they have been condemned. And FIFA has been a victim because maybe that their position in FIFA has been misused by them for their own personal benefits, or even without the maybe. And this is over, and this is finished, and this is the past. So whatever comes out of these trials that we in FIFA have not yet dealt with, we will deal with it. We have ethics committees, we have disciplinary committees. They will deal with these questions. It's not for the FIFA president to deal with them. We have the institutions for that. But again, we speak a lot always about you know, the right to due process, the tolerance, and this goes for all the discussions that we have, because we make also football always much more important in these elements than what we should, I think. But due process and tolerance should start also with us. Let the process make its way. The prosecution authorities have many more tools than we have to prosecute people, to provide evidence. We are cooperating at FIFA now, of course, with all the authorities all over the world. And whatever evidence we can get, there will be processes as well in FIFA for cases we have not dealt with until now. And then the bodies who are in charge of taking measures will take measures and will certainly not refrain, or they will certainly not refrain from taking measures if there need be. But we should let the process make its way to start with, number one, and number two, we should make a clear distinction between the past and the present and future on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question, I have no time, sorry. So, and maybe there is a little chance that the last question will be about the football, about the game. Yes, please.
Rob Harris from the Associated Press. I meant, if it was taking place after the draw, we might be able to ask about the draw itself. But a question to the FIFA president. Two questions. First of all, Mr. Mutko talked about the need for an investigation into doping in British football. Do you share his belief that such an investigation is required? And just back on the New York trial, I'm not asking you to comment on evidence being discussed in an ongoing trial, but we are hearing new claims about the Qatar 2022 World Cup. Is there an obligation on FIFA's behalf, once the trial is over, to test that evidence itself in a new investigation? Otherwise, the issue of corruption will be yet again potentially hanging over the 2022 World Cup.
Значит, я хочу вам уточнить, я не сказал, не призвал нигде никаких проверок делать.
No, I was not calling for checking British football. No, I didn't say that. Please don't take me wrong. I said that it was only newspaper articles, New York Times, this movie by ARD from Germany were the causes for this investigation. I just said that I can give you a couple of dozen such articles with the names of their authors, with the names of journalists writing about doping cases in Norway, about suspicions in the UK, and so on. I'm saying that we should have one and the same standard. Why don't you put together a commission to investigate into doping suspicions in other countries? Let's put it this way. Well, I fired the director of the laboratory, who is the whistleblower, and he said, well, I have so much information that we will just explode VADA and so on. And I said that we will fire him, but he had been present in 3 Olympic Games, and well, he said, I know everything, and well, I told our counterparts from other countries that he will go to America and he will claim that something was wrong in Russia and so on. And he is a bad witness, I said. But in America, he turned into a bona fide witness somehow 2 weeks later. I'm just repeating myself. I believe that sports should not be under political pressure. Sports should not be told what to do, where to go, because, well, we work with different officials, and we hear that we are under pressure from here, we are under pressure from there, and I say, well, if you don't fight back, well, you will just be smashed. Gianni, well, sorry, I'm citing people like Tretyakov in skeleton. He was a world champion before he came to the Olympic Games. He was not just a man from the street, and suddenly they are talking about this Duchess cocktail and so on. And well, on the bottles there were no scratches on the urine bottles and so on. But then somebody said that, well, this man, Tretyakov, had been on a list, on a blacklist or something and so on. So I just want you to know, if you are seeking for truth, you should, well, look at these well, therapeutical references that well, allowed Russian sportsmen to take some kind of medical drugs and so on. So if you want Russia to look into this, well, we got 24 permissions, and some countries have 400. Can you imagine that? 400. And, well, for example, a sportsman comes to see the medical doctors, and, well, he says that I need this drug, I need this medicine, and so on, and he has a permission for every kind of sports, and well, he is a sick man, and then he wins the race, 400 meters, And, well, our sportsmen are saying, well, we come to a doctor and we say that, well, I'll participate in this competition. I don't have a single permission for a single medical drug. So, well, you know who provides these drugs, and, well, people are actually evading control and monitoring. I believe that you should analyze the lineup of WEDA, see who is working there. Meldonium, for example, it was a scandal. Well, 80 sportsmen for 6 months were suspended from World Cups, from different kind of sports events and competitions, but, well, nobody said, please excuse us for this. And, well, we had never tested meldonium. Well, it may well be that you take meldonium now, and 2 years from now you will still have something remaining in your blood, and so on. So we have never tested it. And, well, the international officials would say, well, 6 months later they would say, okay, you can come back and participate in competitions. But I believe that this is absolutely unfair. And, well, they were monitoring the situation in Russia, and meldonium was something that was permitted, and it was good for the heart muscle, and, well, this is not any kind of doping and so on. So let us dig into this and understand what is going on. Well, I love Brazil, as I said, but I remember that there was another scandal. Some people were alleging that a Mr. Fredericks from the IOC, he was part of the International Athletics Federation, and he had been claiming that Russia is doing that wrong, this wrong, and so on. And then they found out that he was corrupt. What if this happened in Russia? Can you imagine that? There would have been 54 commissions and 48 investigations already ongoing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, I was promoting our requests to host the World Cup. We did want to hold a World Cup here in Russia, and, well, we knew that there will be a huge well, inheritance here, and, well, we understood that everything will remain in Russia. What we will build for the World Cup of 2018, we saw that FIFA wants to enter new regions, that it's about inheriting stadiums and infrastructure and so on. Well, you are saying that there are court proceedings and so on. Well, I was invited as a witness 3 times, and I could tell you what we were doing. Well, we were doing everything that is provided for by the regulations. Everything was legal. This is what I'm saying, and, well, you will misquote me, and then people will read that what Mr. Mutko is calling about people to do this and that. I'm not calling upon anyone to do anything. I love sportsmen. I love different kind of sports, and, well, when people allege that we are doing something wrongfully, well, I don't like this. For many decades and for the last several years, we have been doing a lot, and we have achieved a lot. We have different kind of projects and competitions. We're a good partner of the world sports movement, and I don't understand why you have trampled Russia underfoot. I don't understand this. Even if we take doping cases, let's look into every case by case, and talk about every individual sportsman, and you can read the files and so on. And even international federations say that, well, we cannot suspend sportsmen like this, and, well, they're claiming that there was a government-sponsored doping program before and during 2014. Well, I believe that this is blown out of, well, proportion. For example, somebody wins a gold medal, and, well, this person is checked for doping, and then several years later they discover new methodologies to test the substances or the blood or urine samples and so on. So let's recheck everyone, and then, well, people get medals who do not go through doping control, either before or after. And I believe that we will nip sports in the bud, so to say. We will kill sports if we go this way. And if you open a newspaper today, well, any expert may say there in an article that Russians should be disciplined, they should be punished, and so on. But we are a huge sports country. We have 178 different kinds of sport. We have 13,000 sportsmen from different kinds of sports and so on. And well, for example, the fencers, as we found out, did not take any doping. And well, 2 sportsmen are going to court against McLaren because they were not allowed to participate in the Olympic Games. And now, well, again, they may participate, but they have missed the previous Olympic Games. So we do not really announce, we do not shout on every corner that the government is supporting sports, but, well, I can tell you that we are very actively protecting our sportsmen, and, well, we will use everything that we have. We trust our sportsmen, and, well, there are civil courts, other courts where we can go. We will not leave this as it is, but we will show that there are problems in other countries. We're not shouting about this on every corner. Well, we believe that at arm's length we should, well, take a balanced approach to every country. Everybody should have a level playing field. And had we had this arm's length, well, principle, I believe that it would have been better. But, well, these weapons are used against us, doping control and different things. Well, you are claiming that I'm calling upon people to do something. No, I'm not. I'm absolutely tolerant. I trust FIFA. I trust the Federation of Biathlon and ski racing, for example, and so on. But I'm just saying that there is a movie about Russia, or an article or a whistleblower about Russia, and people blow this out of proportion, and in another case it's hush-hush. And, well, people continue to take up positions of high authority and so on. And, well, some people are claiming that people were reading some illegal SMSs and so on, and then this person says, I never read my telephone, I never read SMSs on my telephone, and he is whitewashed. But I believe that, well, many people are not listening to me, and people who come from different editions, different newspapers, don't want to hear what I'm saying. I understand this. And this may be hot air for you, but for me it's not. And, well, this is not within my terms of reference. Thank you.
Опять скелетон.
We talked about skeleton again now, okay?
Yes, no problem, but you are a real expert in all of these topics anyway. But to be fair, I didn't hear it either, that he was saying, I don't know, that he was saying about, Mr. Mutko was saying about an investigation in British football. Also because British football, as we know, doesn't exist. It's English football, Scottish football, Welsh football, or Northern Irish football. And when it comes, in general, to doping, since it seems to be an interesting topic here today, when it comes to doping and to doping in football, I'm not an expert, but I don't think there are many other international sports organizations who are doing as many tests, anti-doping tests, as football is doing. Again, be it FIFA, UEFA, or the national associations, in competition, out of competition, blood, urine, biological passports, and with the regularity of matches played. I mean, professional football players in top teams, they play 50, 60 matches every year. They are tested, I don't know how many times every year. If we would have a serious doping issue in football, this would be known by now, whether it's in Russia or in any other country in the world. When it comes to your second part, or the second question, I can simply repeat that I will not participate in any speculation. I've never done this. I will not do it in the future as well. There are ongoing court cases. I mean, there were people hundreds of years ago who were fighting to have systems in place with independent courts, with independent investigatory forces. We have to let them do their job. We have to cooperate with them, and then we have to analyze the results. But we have to be a little bit careful with prejudgments generally, because it's simple, and really I want to say this as a normal person from the world. It's easy in our part of the world to paint with a dark paint everything that comes from the East, from Russia or from the Arab world. Well, it's all bad because we know everything. We are the best ones. We know how to run countries. We know how democracy works. We know this, we know that. We have no corruption. Well, we have also, there are good people and bad people everywhere in the world. And unfortunately, there is a sad history in terms of World Cup decisions in the past, from the East or from the West. The IOC big scandal was about Salt Lake City, if I remember well. We have to learn from these things and we have to look forward. As far as I'm concerned, we are organizing now the World Cup in Russia, which will be the best ever World Cup, and in 22 we'll organize the World Cup in Qatar, which will be the best ever World Cup. And we have to make sure that the bidding process for 26, which is ongoing right now, is bulletproof to make sure that these suspicions, and if they become true, then it's a different story. But for the moment, there are suspicions, and there are still suspicions, as I was saying also about some past editions of World Cups, that these suspicions cannot even anymore surface because we will have put in place all the mechanisms to make sure that they don't happen. And then, you know, we need to have the trust of people that we are doing our job in a serious way. We have to earn that trust, I understand that, and to be earning that trust we have to show that we are straight, that we are focused, but also I think also that when we speak about tolerance, about openness, we start also a little bit with ourselves and we don't prejudge on situations before judgments have taken place by those who are in charge of taking these decisions and these judgments. And whatever we can contribute from our side to get the truth out, to make sure that we know what has happened in any aspect, in any World Cup, in any doping situation, in anything that happened, whatever we can do to cooperate, well, we will do it, but we shouldn't take decisions before decisions are taken just because we have a particular way of thinking or of seeing things. Let's look at the things objectively, and once they are clear, once they are established, we will take the measures. And if then we don't take the measures, then we can be, and we should be, criticized as well. But for the time being, we have to work. We have to deliver football. We have to make sure that people trust us. We have to make sure that we put in the conditions to have great events like, hopefully, this World Cup, which I really believe will change also the way the world is looking at Russia. I think the world, I don't want to sound, you know, too whatever, but I think the world today really needs a little bit of tolerance, a little bit of understanding, and maybe to focus on football will help as well to have this tolerance and this understanding, being, of course, always very, very firm when established situations have happened, but not speculating on things which are not proven. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Infantino, and my colleagues just told me that we have a little bit more time. So let's make a pass to the left wing. Let's play whites. Yes, please.
If possible, about the World Cup, huh? If possible.
Maybe about the draw.
Or about the draw. I mean, we are here for that, finally. You are here as well, I think, for that.
Здравствуйте, вопрос скорее к Виталию
Good afternoon. A question for Mr. Mutko, Russia Today, Andrei. Now, can you comment the situation around the Norwegian TV channel TV2 that has been discredited because of some alleged Russia criticism cases that had happened? Well, all I can say is there was a technical problem apparently, and the accreditation has been restored now to that TV channel. That's all I can say. Any more questions, please?
Добрый день.
Veronika Stupnova, our sport. Question for Mr. Infantino. On the 28th of November, we have seen the end of the first ticketing phase. What do you think about the results of it, of the ticket and sales? Anything you'd like to share with us?
Yes, there are still some tickets for sale, so those who want to have tickets, register, take them. As of tonight, you will know exactly who plays where, because it's important that we have full stadiums and great atmospheres here. This will contribute as well to the success. Having said this, we are extremely happy on the way the ticketing sale has started. We have sold close to 750,000 tickets already in the first sales phase, without knowing yet who plays where, and until a couple of weeks ago we didn't even know which teams had qualified, except for some of them. So I think that the response from the public is important also, because from these 750,000 tickets, around 50% come from Russia and 50% from all over the world, which shows as well that there is a big interest in the competition. But we have still more tickets for sale, and I'm sure that those who will buy the tickets and will come to Russia, they will be extremely happy. So there are still a few tickets. Go on our website, www.fifa.com. For those who don't know, order your ticket and you get it. Then apply for the fan ID, and you will even have free transportation and celebrations. Just, I think, food and drink you have to pay by yourselves. That's part of the deal.
Thank you very much. The very last question. Yeah, I think. And I hope we'll finish our meeting with a positive topic, right?
Oh, you are holding it. Sure. Tariq Panja from the New York Times. Mr. Infantino, you said, you wanted us to talk about the draw. Unfortunately, apart from Russian journalists, the only questions you've had really have been about sort of negative issues. Do you think it would have been handy if Mr. Mutko was not there? Would it have been easier for you if Mr. Mutko wasn't sitting alongside you today? And Mr. Mutko, personally, do you feel maybe a little bit embarrassed about all of this? You've got all these journalists here, all these cameras, and these are the questions that you're facing. Thank you.
Well, if Mr. Mutko was not there, I would certainly have been speaking a bit more, I guess. Because like me, he likes to talk. But I'm also sure, Tariq, that if journalists from Peru or from Australia would have asked questions, maybe the questions would have been different as well, and they would have been focusing about football, which is what actually the people want to read and hear. And it is our job then to make sure that the governance of football is run in the best possible way. And besides that, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be here with Mr. Mutko, who has worked in the last 7 years before my time at FIFA as well on the organization. It's not easy to organize such a big event like the World Cup. It's not easy to organize it in such a big country like Russia. There is a lot of work that needs to be done, and it goes beyond the different comments that are made today. And I think this work of all the people involved in the local organizing committee, all the volunteers, all the Russians that have contributed, and they want to see and they are proud to do something for their country. I think this work needs to be recognized by all of us.
Well, there's nothing I can add, really. All I can say is that, as I said before, I shouldn't be ashamed of anything, and I don't feel embarrassed. Certainly not. No embarrassment. And, answering to those questions, no problem at all. I'm pretty well informed, I should say. And I know what types of questions you're asking. The New York Times has just recently published an article of the former laboratory director, and I called your newspaper the day after and said, I'm going to comment on it. And I gave an interview to the New York Times, I'm saying, and they said, no, we don't need that before the 5th of December. And after the 5th, after that decision, well, feel free to call us. So well, I'll be happy to do that, mind you. I'll be happy to comment. But this is not what I'm saying here. When we are organizing large projects like this one, which is a huge event, the world football, after all, it's about world football, it's Olympic Games. This also goes hand in hand with a number of problems, of course, large problems, of course, and there are deficiencies we admit, of course. But it doesn't mean that we are different from all the others. We know your positions, the position of your newspapers. There's a number of you have your own take on a number of public affairs also in Russia, and this is your good due, I should say. You are journalists, after all, and we're not changing that. We're not feeling embarrassed. We are not we're reaching out to you in that type of way. I'm saying is that the stories that you are publishing, we believe, have a common thread. One and the same scenario. You're trying to influence a decision of the offices that, or the organs that will have to take a decision, or the bodies, or trying to change people's attitudes toward that project. No, we are doing our job. I've already said when I talked about the Confederations Cup, there was no doping. We had other problems, of course. People are referring to racism issues. Well, we have said, well, there's some fans that misbehaved a bit, and we've organized quite a number of meetings, and people have always selectively looked at the realities in our country. But people who were actually here, Liverpool, Manchester, we have looked at what happened here. That was all quiet, no problem. Or the Chileans, the Mexicans, they were all in Russia. They were traveling the country to all the different corners of the country and have never encountered any problems. Of course, in New York, take New York, if you behave accordingly, or not accordingly, I should say, I'm sure people will run into difficulties, right? So I'm saying here that Russia has 180 nationalities, 4 different religions, and these are part of the Russian Federation. We are living in understanding and accord, if you will. I mean, there's doping problems, racism problems. That is what people are saying happens in this country. Well, I think it's a global problem. It cannot be solved in one country. I mean, how are we going to solve things here when they're being ignored elsewhere? Now, so are you saying that there's no doping in the United States? Look at the statistics. 2014, and you'll see. Look at the statistics. Your national team is less tested than ours. If you are, look at the NHL, the NBA. Are not being inspected by WADA. Why don't you tell the rest of the world? I mean, they're ordering doping tests on a commercial basis, and they know what to publish and what not. I mean, you are sort of distorting the realities, I think, and therefore, well, what else can I say? Well, the heart of the matter is, what is the basis on which we draw conclusions? Now, people say there's a state program in this country. What is a state program? What is a state-sponsored program? We assume that a state-sponsored program, or what state involvement should mean. Until 2009, until we had our ministry, the borders of the Russian Federation were closed for any external WADA offices or doping control offices. They couldn't get doping samples out of the country. It was a closed country, if you will. It was a black spot, almost, you could say. But we opened those borders back in 2009. Now, please, come to the country, look, see what's here. The national teams came to our countries also. Now, basically, any organization, the TTM from Sweden, for instance, can come to the country, pick a random doping sample. How are we manipulating that if any organization can show up at no notice? Now, 80% of our athletes are tested by the international pools, but people do no longer believe themselves, apparently. And you won't believe when I say, when we got the Olympic Games selection criteria in Rio, and you wouldn't believe when I'm saying that, we received a letter saying that every athlete should be tested 3 times within 6 months. No other athletes from other parts of the world had to be subjected to that regime. It was very expensive, but we paid this money to make sure that our athletes felt sure and reassured, if you will. But those criteria have been told, they told us later, for the Brits, for the Swedes, etc., that have been tested in Cologne and Geneva. And they said we shouldn't trust those doping samples because they have been sampled by other people which were non-Russian or from international organizations, although they have been sampled in Russia. Is it by the air? Is the Russian air not the right one? I mean, this is ludicrous. The head of the German Football Association has been misinterpreted about what he has said. And if you don't trust his words, well, go and check the files and the statistics every day. And that is really the crucial problem. What is the basis of reference? We assume that a state-sponsored program would mean if a state takes a decision, is covering up files. This has not happened in this country. But when we talk about a situation where the doping control system was deficient, but not because of our own fault, there were VADA-related problems, how samples will be shifted around and had to be re-inspected. People were paying money to whistleblowers. Now, if we are being told today that the ROSADA doesn't work properly, well, we would have fired people right away. We wouldn't say, no, the system has worked poorly. No, we have taken or drawn the right lessons. Now, we have 2 years now that Western inspectors are in the country. We are paying them huge funds, and they are telling us, yeah, great work, a huge amount of work, but we have to do some more, and some more. So the state should acknowledge that this is a state-controlled program. No, it's not. It's not. And those who are manipulating the samples are not sponsored by the state. Yeah, what is the terms of reference that we're focusing on? Let us ask questions. Why, for instance, and I've talked about that in the IOC before, let us try and invite people, the chaperones that also worked in Sochi. We had 22 international experts in the laboratory in Sochi at all of the control labs. That's a list. Ask them. Ask those people what they did in Sochi. They got, a lot of money for doing that job there at the time. We had international doping officers. I mean, why don't you ask that doping control officer what was happening there? If you can close it like this, is okay. If you only close it by 15 degrees, it's not okay. I mean, I don't understand the whole hassle about that. So what is the basis on which we are founding our suspicions? So we're easygoing and relaxed about that. We know what's going on, why this debate is currently being waged. We continue to support our athletes. We're developing sports, and the World Cup we do. Why? We want to increase the public interest in sports as well, and to the healthy lifestyle in this country. And we're going to do that. We're going to do that anyway, no matter what's happened. Together with FIFA, in fact, and I think the legacy will have left is huge. We have 100 football pitches that we're going to give to schools free of charge, and they get their own little stadium, the schools across the country. This is what we're doing. Why? We want to develop sports, we want to develop football. So the Football World Cup should be remembered not only by those great events, but also by the great legacy in our country, for the children, for those who are big supporters and fans of football. Thank you very much.
Something about skeleton? Skeleton, no. Bobsleigh. Bobsleigh, okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutko. Thank you very much, Mr. Infantino. Спасибо большое. Thank you very much, dear colleagues.
Well.
And please do not forget about the big day in the history of world football. Today is a big draw. Still expectating.
Хочу этому журналисту пойду отдам.